Level 1, the draft notice. You are 19 years old. You are sitting on the porch in Birmingham when your mother brings the envelope out. She doesn't say anything. She just hands it to you and goes back inside. You have been expecting it. Every young man on your street has been expecting it. You open it, report to Fort McClellan, 6 weeks, bring nothing you can't carry. That night your father sits across from you at the kitchen table. He served in the First War, came home to a country that celebrated victory and met black veterans at the city limits with axe handles. He looks at the letter for a long time. Fight hard, he says, but never forget what you're fighting for and what you're fighting in. You ship out the next morning before the sun comes up. You think the uniform changes what you are in this country. You are about to find out exactly how wrong you are. Level 2, the base. Fort McClellan, Alabama. Still the South. Separate barracks. Separate mess. Separate latrines. You are training to fight the same enemy, and you cannot eat at the same table as the men you will fight beside. Your commanding officer is a white lieutenant named Sykes. 23 years old, never been in combat. At the end of the second week, Sykes runs the whole unit through an obstacle course. Timed. You finish first. Not close. 40 seconds ahead of the next man. Sykes looks at his clipboard. Looks at you. Tells you to run it again. You run it again. You finish first again. He writes something down and walks away without a word. Never acknowledges the time. Not that day. Not any day after. Corporal Hines watches from the fence line. He doesn't look surprised. That is when you understand. Being the best is not the same as being seen. Then the unit assignments come down. Supply battalion, carrying equipment, loading trucks, moving things from one place to another. They will put you as close to the war as they need your back. No closer. Level 3, the crossing, North Atlantic. January 1944. 3,000 men on a troop transport. White soldiers in the upper berths. You are below the waterline. 8 men to a compartment built for 4, sleeping in shifts. 11 days in winter swells. The air below decks smells like diesel and vomit and dread. One night Corporal Hines gathers the men and speaks quietly. He tells you the French will not treat you the way Alabama does. The Germans won't know to either, not at first. But the Army is America, he says, and America came with you on this ship. The hull groans against the Atlantic. You are already in the war. It just hasn't started shooting yet. Level 4, the work, Normandy. 3 weeks after the invasion. You land after the assault, when the sand has been cleared, but the bodies haven't all been counted. Your job is the Red Ball Express. Drive trucks, move ammunition, food, fuel, and blood plasma from the ports to the front lines. 600 miles of road. No headlights after dark because the German planes are watching. You drive 18 hours straight some nights. Roads cratered, bridges blown. You navigate by memory and instinct. If the trucks stop, the front lines stop. If the front lines stop, men die. Every general on the Western Front knows this. But when the war correspondents come through and photograph the heroes of the supply line, they photograph white officers standing next to the trucks. You are in none of the photographs. You are in all of the work. Level 5, the town, somewhere in France. October 1944. Your convoy stops for 2 hours while a German air patrol passes. You climb down from the truck. A French woman comes out of a bakery and hands you bread. Warm. She smiles at you like you are a human being. No calculation. No threat underneath it. You have been in uniform for 8 months, driven through 4 countries, kept front lines, supplied through 2 major offensives. This is the first time someone has looked at you like a full person, a stranger in a foreign country who doesn't speak your language. That night, you sit with James from Detroit, Roosevelt from Memphis, Calvin from Harlem. You know we can't go home to this, James says. Nobody argues. Level 6, the theft, December 1944. A supply depot outside Liège, Belgium. You are midway through a scheduled delivery when a military policeman named Corporal Webb tells you to move your truck. You show him the signed orders. He tells you again. You tell him the delivery is not complete. He comes back with 2 MPs. They drag you out of the cab. A white private named Garrett finishes the run. Garrett has been in theater 6 weeks. He doesn't know the route. Another soldier rides with him to call every turn. He gets lost twice and arrives 40 minutes late. That afternoon, the depot commander sends a commendation up the chain. Outstanding initiative. Kept the supply line moving. Garrett's name is on it. You spend 2 nights in detention for insubordination. A note goes in your file. When you get out, Corporal Hines says, "That's the whole thing right there. The whole thing in one afternoon." They don't just take the credit. They take it and then punish you for making them take it. Level 7, the Bulge, January 1945. The Germans break through the Allied lines in the Ardennes, the worst crisis of the Western Front. The army is desperate. For the first time in the war, they offer black soldiers the chance to transfer to combat infantry, to fight on the front lines. You volunteer the same hour the announcement comes down. So do 4,500 others. They put you in a rifle platoon. White and black soldiers, side by side, because the alternative is losing. You fight in Belgium for 6 weeks in cold that gets into your bones and stays. You are good at this. You already knew you would be. The line holds. The Germans pull back. Then the crisis ends. The army quietly reassigns most black volunteers back to segregated service units. They needed you to save the line. You saved it. Now get back in the truck. Level 8, the Victory, May 8th, 1945. VE Day. The war in Europe is over. White soldiers flood the streets of the nearest town, drinking, dancing, strangers kissing in uniform. You watch from outside a bar that will not serve you. 40,000 miles of war road. 2 winters. A German breakthrough. A commendation with another man's name on it, and a note in your file for doing your job. A white private from Arkansas who arrived 8 weeks ago is dancing in the street with a bottle of champagne. You helped win a war for freedom. You cannot get a drink inside. Level 9, the Return, August 1945. You dock in New York. Times Square is full. Ticker tape. A woman kisses you on the cheek and calls you a hero. You take a bus south the next day. Somewhere in Virginia, the driver tells you to move to the back. 3 years, 2 continents, the Bulge, 40,000 miles of dark road. You move to the back. In Birmingham, your mother holds you without speaking. Walking home, a white man tells you to change out of that uniform before somebody takes it off you. You are 23 years old with a combat commendation under another man's name and the back of a Virginia bus. You walk home. You don't take the uniform off. Level 10, the Bill, the GI Bill, education, home loans, job placement for returning veterans. University of Alabama doesn't accept black applicants. Home loan, the neighborhood you want isn't available for the program. The factory, you're more qualified than the white men hired alongside you, paid less anyway. The GI Bill built the American middle class, sent a generation to college, financed the suburbs, created wealth that passed to children and grandchildren. You are a veteran. You get the paper version. The theft didn't stop at Liège. It just changed its paperwork. Level 11, the long game. You spend the next 20 years watching. Tuskegee airmen celebrated in newspapers, turned away at VA hospitals. Men who drove the Red Ball Express denied mortgages, refused service, beaten at courthouse steps trying to vote. You go to Birmingham in 1963, 41 years old, fire hoses in the street. You stand there and feel something you haven't let yourself feel since the detention cell in Belgium. A rage so old and so deep, it has its own geology. Layers of it going back past you, past your father, past everything. You are not composed. You are not cool. You are just done. Done swallowing it. Done watching the country spend 20 years proving that what happened to you wasn't wartime exception, but actual design. You don't move from that street. You have survived everything this country has aimed at you. A hose is not where it ends. Level 12, the reckoning. You are 87 years old watching television in the same Birmingham house where your mother handed you the envelope. Your grandson sits next to you, 19. Draft card came last week. He asks what it was like. You think about Heinz pressing his hand to your chest below the waterline, the French woman and the bread, Garrett's name on your commendation, the bus driver in Virginia, 40,000 miles of road you drove without headlights because the planes were watching, your father at the kitchen table. Fight hard, but never forget what you're fighting for and what you're fighting in. You look at your grandson. Both parts, you tell him. You have to hold both parts at the same time. He nods like he understands. You hope he never has to understand it the way you did. But some things get passed down whether you mean to pass them or not.